Inspires a Love Life podcast number 3. Hope you enjoyed podcast 1 and podcast number 2. And today's podcast, it's a real pleasure and an honour to have John Dennis, the former Barnsley chairman. I really do count John as a good friend, and so to have you on the show, John, is really it means a lot to me.
Well, thank you very much for that very warm welcome, Bruce, and I suppose it's rare indeed that a former football club chairman can count one of his ex-players as a close friend, so it's lovely to be here. It's wonderful to see the work that you've done here, just amazing.
Nice, fantastic. So, if we go back, it'd be 20 years. I mean, I signed for Barnsley, it would have been in October 1998, if I remember.
Yeah.
So, go back. Why did you sign me? How did you sign me? What was the kind of journey? What are the conversations?
Why did we sign you? Because you were a good player. You first sort of hit the scene big time when you were playing for Watford.
Yeah.
And you were the first £1 million teenager to be sold in this country. And in those days, I remember that you used to play wide on the right.
That's right, yeah.
And I can remember one game at Oakwell where, playing right to left, you were on the right hand side in front of what was then the New East stand.
Yeah.
And you flew down that side all game, and I'm thinking, God, he looks a real good player. And obviously you then went on to be sold for £1 million. You went to Palace, you did well at Palace. And I think that around the time that we came in for you, we got a few quid because we just got the relegation parachute payment, and there'd been lots of speculation around Ashley Ward, and we thought that Ward would be going at some point. So myself and John Hendry, who was the manager then, talked about it, and we thought that we'd try and sign you, and that eventually came to pass. It was not an easy negotiation with Crystal Palace.
Oh, my dad
beat me to it. It was definitely not an easy negotiation with your father. I mean, I'd heard about all these Christian values and what have you, and credit to your dad, he put all them to one side when he was negotiating for his son. So that was tough, but no, that's how it all happened. And I suppose, sadly, really, there was only one game where the big three played together: you, Higgy, and Wardy.
Yeah.
And that was Huddersfield Town that Friday night, live on Sky.
Yeah.
And it was 7-0.
So we were 6-0 up at half time.
We were 6 up at half time. We won the game 7. Higgy missed a penalty.
Higgy missed a penalty. He was talking about that.
Yeah, he was talking too much about scoring penalties. Well, he missed one that night. That would have given him his hat trick.
Yeah.
And young Sean McClare played in the team that night.
That's right.
And he had a really good game, but he missed 2 or 3 chances. I mean, that was one of those where we could have got double figures without a doubt. We were fantastic. And then obviously you stayed at Barnsley for a long period of time and became a legend. And I think that although that night against Huddersfield was memorable, your best ever performance for Barnsley was away at the Stadium of Light.
Yeah.
Sunderland had moved there, had played there the previous season.
Yeah.
They'd been unbeaten that season. We went there, I reckon it would have been about November time, Bruce.
Yeah.
And Ashley Ward got sent off.
Remember that.
After about half an hour.
Yeah.
You played up front. Yeah. You scored. We won the game, and you were absolutely magnificent that night.
Yeah,
led the line on your own. Did the work of 2 men. Yeah, I think that was your best performance for Barnsley. I know people always remember you fondly for the Birmingham away, but the day at Sunderland was brilliant because that contributed to us winning, and we were the first team to beat Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. So
I remember that.
yeah.
I mean, if I was to backtrack, I remember. I've told this story a few times. I never wanted to come to Barnsley. I remember I did an interview. I did another. I think it was like for the club. And I was just within that. I was saying I remember my dad was my agent at the time, and obviously Terry Venables had said I could go. I was in talks with Fulham with Kevin Keegan, and I had my son who lived in Croydon. So my heart was set on going to Fulham. You know, Kevin Keegan, the new Harrods owner. You know, they was on the go, and I thought this was nailed on. And then, as you know, my dad's negotiation skills was quite tough, and we couldn't come to an agreement. And then at the last hour, it all fell through. And I remember Kevin Keegan saying, "If your dad gets you that deal, you can come and become my agent." So we was joking about that, and I was really gutted that it fell through. And I remember my dad saying, "Barnsley have come in for you." And I was like, "Barnsley?" I was like, "Dad, where is that?" And I actually remember saying, "Dad, no chance, I'm never going up there." But to be fair to my dad, bless him, he said, "Son, let's go up and just have a conversation." I remember us driving up the M1, driving up the M1 saying, "Junction 29, 30, 31, it's like, gosh, where is this place?" And getting there, but as soon as I got in that room, and the reason why I'm going through this is, which is a credit to you, is that as soon as we began to talk, although in negotiations and my dad was quite hard hitting and all that, you know, the way you sold the club and your attitude, the way you conducted yourself, I knew in my heart that this is the place where I've got to be.
Yeah, I mean, I always used to find it more difficult to conduct contract discussions when the player was in the room.
Yeah.
Because players sometimes take things the wrong way, and for me, you do all the nice stuff. You talk about your vision for the club. You talk about how the club's set up and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And that's one side of it. And the negotiations, it's just business. And whatever you say in those discussions don't reflect on how you feel about the player. And it's to your credit that you didn't get offended by some of the things that I said.
No, you were great. You was honest. You said it as it was, as Barnsley people do. And my dad's like that too. And I knew in my heart that this is the place for me to be. And boy, was that a right decision.
Well, 20 years on, you're still living in the borough of Barnsley. It's unbelievable.
It is.
And the relationship between ourselves has been very good over the years.
Absolutely, and that has meant a lot to me. I remember also obviously that period where obviously Barnsley had been relegated. I signed, sold Waldy. There was a lot of speculation whether he was going, staying, and we've never even spoke about this, and we haven't, but we've never spoke about this, but it was a challenging decision for the club. Do we sell Waldy, do we keep him? But looking back, it's like, I think it was a great decision for himself, really.
I think that in the case of Wardy and many other players, there comes a time where we simply didn't have the financial resources not to sell him. And Ward, without going into details, he was on good money at Barnsley.
Yeah.
But when Blackburn came in for him, his money almost trebled. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. The saga had been going on for ages and ages and ages, and I'd had a bid from Leeds. Leicester were desperate to sign him.
Yeah.
And then Blackburn came in, and I finally agreed a fee with Blackburn. And Ash didn't really have a proper agent, but he used a guy called Colin Gordon for advice.
Yeah.
And Colin was sat in my office the day that I agreed the fee with John Williams at Blackburn, who was their chief exec. So I said to Colin, "Well, you better get yourself off then and get it all sorted out." So that would have been the day before Christmas Eve. So I said to Colin, "Go and sign the contract." He said, "We haven't discussed it yet." I said, "Colin, do me a favour, just go and get it done. Of course you've discussed it. No, I promise you, John, we haven't. I said, yeah, right, okay. So him and Wardy went off to Blackburn, and Christmas Eve next day, which was a busy time for me in the business. So about 10 o'clock I thought, oh, I'll just ring Blackburn, just make sure it's all gone through, so we know when to expect the money. And I finally got hold of John Williams and said, no, he said, we couldn't agree terms. That's what you're talking about. There's like £4.5 million at stake here, by the way. I said, what do you mean you can't agree terms? I thought you'd already sorted it out. He said, no, we don't behave like that, John. I said, all right, John. I said, so what's going to happen then? He said, well, it's Christmas now. He said, we'll try and do something after Christmas. So I thought, well, I better ring the manager to tell him that Wardy hasn't gone yet. So I rang John and I said, Wardy's not signed yet. I said, I think it'll happen after Christmas. He said, well, he's fit now, you know, because he'd been injured. I said, yeah, I know he's fit. He said, I think I'll play him at Stockport. I said, I don't think you bloody will, because Stockport, big centre halves, they got Mike Flynn, who we eventually signed, and somebody else. I said, John, I said, really? I said, I've had lots of experiences in life, but I've never seen £4.5 million quid carried off on a stretcher. I said, so, I'm sorry, on this occasion, I'm overruling you. I said, I know I shouldn't, but you're not playing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were at Stockport on Boxing Day, and Wardy was at the game, and I said to him, what's happening? He said, oh, I think we're nearly there. He said, I think I'm signing tomorrow. I said, oh, thank God for that. So that was Ashley Ward.
But it was a good deal. So we all joke about it. Barnsley fans joke about it. We all joke about it. We call it the Ashley Ward stand.
Yeah, so, I mean that was talked about on Friday night. Yeah. And actually, the East stand was the Cartala stand, because that was built in the early 1990s.
Yeah.
And that came about through, we got 1.5 million from Nottingham Forest for Carl, and then we had £1 million grant. So Carl was the instigator of that, if you like.
Yeah.
With the Ward money, I think that by that stage we'd started to turn our attention to the North Stand and the Academy. Yeah. And I think it's not, you know, there's been in recent weeks with the film coming out and then with the Hall of Fame dinner on Friday night, and I think that one thing that has not been emphasised perhaps as much as it might have been was that whatever the glory and the joy and the thrill of what happened when we did get promotion, and then the year in the Premiership, and going to Wembley when you were there, there was a legacy of those times, and that legacy is virtually a rebuilt stadium, but more importantly, the Academy.
Absolutely.
And you know, that was a vision of myself and my directors, and over the years, there was a period of time when we weren't producing very much, but we've produced plenty in recent times, with John Stones and Holgate and others coming through now. I mean, it was great to see Jacob Brown on Saturday, who I thought had a really good game. He scored his goal the previous week. So, if you like, the legacy of those times is the Academy, and I know that other clubs have perhaps gone further than we have, but it still stands the test of time.
I know. I mean, it's funny because obviously my son's in the academy, he's in under 14, and so I'm there obviously as an ex-player, but also as a parent. And so I get to see when other academies come and their parents, and you do always get positive feedback about, for a kid to be able to walk on site, to see the stadium, the academy, the training pitches. It has a bit of pulling power to it.
No, I agree with that. I think we're unique in professional football in having the training ground on site. And for me, one of the great buzzers that I used to get when I was involved was like going down there on a Sunday with my work duffel coat on and a flat cap, so I wasn't too conspicuous, or going down in the evenings dressed similarly, and seeing
Yeah.
so many parents and aunties and uncles and grandparents,
Yeah.
and the children, of course, and the Barnsley Football Club was the focus of their lives, and that is fantastic. And for Barnsley Football Club to work properly, it needs to be seen to be and needs to want to be part of the community. So when we were developing our plans and developing the academy, yes, of course, the aim is to produce players, but as important is the strength of the links that it gives you to the local community, and that seems to have paid dividends.
Yeah, fantastic. And so there was that stage of, obviously, when we, Slimy, Wardy went, there was investment in the academy, and I can remember, obviously, when the ITV money went, and I remember my contract was out, and then we having a meeting, my contract was out, and then obviously I remember you pulling me in saying, look, money's gone unexpectedly, because no one didn't expect that to happen, and we need you to take a pay cut, and I gladly did, and I did because of yourself, and because of my love for the club. Now, of course,
you're not asking me for it back now.
We need some dough, John. But I did. I thought about it, because I could have left, but I weighed it up. I had great respect for yourself. I love the club. The fans have always been good to me, and I didn't want to leave. I really didn't want to leave. And yes, as a player, you're thinking about your livelihood, but I really, genuinely didn't want to leave. And I've been blessed to fulfil a lot of dreams of mine, but one of my dreams was to play in the Premier League with, obviously, with Barnsley. But I remember that time, which was a tough decision on what do I do. Speaking to my dad, but money isn't everything. Sometimes being around the right people in the right environment is the right thing, and again, for me, it proved to be the right decision. It really did. But how was that for you as a chairman, having to obviously pull the plug on certain things? How do you cope with that? Because it would have been a tough time.
Bruce, that time was the beginning of a very, very difficult period in the history of Barnsley Football Club.
Yeah.
And as the chairman of the football club at that time, I've always accepted my responsibilities in respect of how things turned out. But it was a horrible time. Yeah. It was a very, very difficult time. People on the non-playing side lost their job. Players were allowed to leave.
Yeah.
And it was just awful to live through. Yeah. I'm a tough old bird. Well, I am now old. Yeah. I've been quite tough in my life.
Yeah.
And it's experiences like that do make you strong, do make you tough. It was awful. It was a terrible time. The collapse of ITV Digital was the first time in sports history that a major television contract had been reneged upon, and it affected Barnsley very badly, as it affected a lot of other clubs. And if that situation hadn't happened, then things would have turned out a lot more different. Yeah. It was tough, and I think the worst personal moment for me, and again, some of this is in the book, and really, you asked the question, how was it for me? So I answer, it didn't really matter how it was for me. All that mattered was the football club. Yeah. But on that personal note, the worst moment of all was the day we got relegated from the old second division, when we lost to Norwich. Yeah. Because that was massive, but I'd had a terrible week. My beloved wife's father had died suddenly on the Thursday night, I was asked, I was the one who had to identify his body.
Right.
So the Friday I'd gone into work, then I'd spent the rest of the day with the family, and then we got the game against Norwich on the Saturday, and I had virtually no sleep.
Wow.
We didn't play well. We didn't fight like a Barnsley team should have fought.
Yeah.
We got relegated. I remember being interviewed afterwards. It's like I wasn't really there. It was like an out of body experience. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They were tough times. But I can remember years and years and years back. My dad, he'd have loved you. My dad would have loved you as a player and as a person.
Yeah.
And he was chairman of Barnsley in the 60s and 70s, and there was a period of time when he and his then manager, I can't remember, Jim Miley, were getting some serious stick, and he was moaning to me about it. And I said, Father, I'm not being funny, but if you put yourself up there, then you're going to get some praise when you do things well.
Yeah.
And when things go wrong, you're going to get some stick.
Awesome,
I wasn't desperately popular with the old man for saying that, but
yeah.
it was something that I remembered, and my own words, and so yeah, we had the glory of promotion and the Premiership and all that, and myself and my directors got praise for that, as did everybody else at the football club. So when it went wrong, we got a bit of stick. It's just how it is.
I mean, and this is me being honest from a player's perspective, I remember, over the years you kind of took a bit of stick for the Nigel Spackman scenario, and so me being, as a player, being in part of that squad, seeing and looking on how it went, that I could see what Spackers was trying to do. I really genuinely could, but looking back, maybe what he was trying to do wasn't a Liverpool or a Chelsea. He was at a Barnsley, and maybe took too big of a steps. But my hand on my heart, I could see what the vision was. Yeah. Do you know what I mean, John?
Yeah, I do. I think that Nigel, both on the pitch and off it, was probably one of the sort of early forerunners of the modern game.
Yeah.
So with the physiotherapist appointment he made and various different other things. Yeah. Unfortunately, the biggest problem was that the players that he recommended for signing, for whatever reason, a lot of them didn't work out.
Yeah, and that happens.
And that does happen. So I used to think, if you get 6 or 7 out of 10 right, you're going to do okay.
Yeah.
And I think the percentage is reversed, and we were getting 6 or 7 out of 10 wrong.
Yeah.
And it made it difficult for people like yourself, who were the heart and soul of a football club.
Yeah.
When players come to a football club and it doesn't work out for them, footballers. Yeah. So they're blaming the club, they're blaming the manager, they're blaming anybody. Yeah. And they tend not to look too closely in the mirror. Yeah. So it was unfortunate. I mean, Nigel got Derek was actually with him. Yeah. Who was at that time and remained a very, very respected football guy. So and again, when Nigel was appointed, he was a popular appointment by the fans. They all thought that we'd done pretty well to get him. But yeah, we had a succession of players who came in who it didn't work out for. Yeah. Steve Parkin following him was a completely different type of manager.
I don't mean to laugh, but I can just picture Steve. Yeah,
Steve was loud and aggressive, old school.
Yeah.
And again, there was some thought behind it. In his appointment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And again, if you look at a lot of football clubs, you can almost certainly guarantee that whatever style one manager's had,
Yeah.
the next one is likely to be diametrically opposite. And
Yeah.
that's what happened with Steve.
Just a quick question. There's a question, and John don't even know this. This has been on my heart for years, John. I've never ever. I put this on Facebook. So there's a question I'm going to ask John that it's always been on my heart, and I've never ever asked him, and I'm going to give him an opportunity to ask it. It would have been that season. It would have been when we got relegated. Could I have gone to West Brom?
Yes.
Did the club put a block on it?
Yes.
Right. Never knew that. So
West Brom came in.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time,
and I never knew that. I've always wanted to ask the question, and I've never brought it up. But I did get told that the club weren't going to let you go.
look,
I was told that the club said I didn't want to go, but I never knew what the story was.
The story was
Yeah.
that West Brom came in and made an offer for you, and we were struggling. It was the season we got relegated from the old second division.
Yeah.
We were struggling a bit at the time. You were the only one that was giving us any goals.
Yeah.
And the offer was not a great offer.
Right.
I mean, as I remember it, we paid 700-ish, 750 for you,
Yeah.
and they were offering 500 grand.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where it was so far away from true value,
Yeah.
because your figure at that time would have started with $1 million at least.
Yeah.
It was clearly it was way below valuation, and secondly, you were an integral part of our survival hopes because
Yeah.
of your goals, and thirdly, by selling one of our top players, I think it was in the old days of when there was a transfer deadline, which was the third Thursday in March.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So it was during that week. So even if we'd had an offer that was worth considering, we'd have been struggling to get a replacement. So that would have sent out the most terrible message to the supporters.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's really funny. I mean, I always got told it was an agent that said it to me, and they said the club said you didn't want to go, and they've put a block on it, and it troubled me for years. But my hand on my heart, as I say it to the camera, I would never have signed for West Brom.
You wouldn't look good in stripes, Bruce.
You know, Gary Magson's not my cup of tea. Yeah, Gary Magson's not my cup of tea in terms of a manager. I mean, I remember even that season, like poor and what's the lad, Jason, striker, that lad, Jason. I can't remember, but I just remember playing them away, and Megson just shouting and screaming non-stop the whole game. And I actually remember playing.
Not Jason Lee, was it?
Not Jason Lee. I've forgotten his name now. Oh, he used to play for Bristol City. Jason. But I remember
Jason Roberts.
Jason Roberts.
Yeah.
And I remember in that game thinking, man, I couldn't play for real. And he shouts too much. It drives me crazy. So I don't think I would have went anyway. But at least I know now, after all these years.
I didn't know you'd done that.
No, I didn't know.
We specifically didn't tell you at the time.
Yeah, no, I didn't
because
know.
it would have unsettled. It could have unsettled.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But you were worth a damn sight more than that. I mean, God, we sold Chris Barker for 400 grand after that. So, I mean, Chris was a decent player, but if looking at values for a second division right back at 400 grand, then the goal scoring striker, you're worth £1 million and more. So yeah, that is the truth. But
wow, great stuff. Well, we're going to take a quick ad. That's been so good. I've wanted to ask John that for years, and I mean years, and I finally know the truth. So hope you've enjoyed this first section, and hopefully you'll be back with us on the other side. Hey guys, quick ad. Part of the plan we're planning for our podcast is to get some local businesses, some other people that are doing work in the community to speak about what they're doing, whether it be their company, their work, and it's a real pleasure to have the director of Interact AV, Daz, in. How you doing, Daz?
Good, mate, thank you.
I was asking Daz earlier, how did you start the company? What made you think of it? Or, why did you start it?
Well, I've been doing Interact AV for just over a year now. But previous to that, I've been working in schools fitting interactive screens, projectors, smart boards, that sort of thing. And I branched out on my own last year. And one of the things I like to do was the CCTV. The reason I started doing the CCTVs was because of most people, what happens is they get the cameras, or they get the idea of getting the cameras, leave it a while, and then something happens. I got my van broken into while my cameras were sat in my living room, not fitted.
No way.
So I fitted my own cameras, and then a friend of mine asked if I'd do theirs.
Right.
So on and so on.
Snowball effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fantastic. So Daz has put up the cameras on our site. He's been a real help, been really, really great for us. Done above and beyond. As you know, we got our cameras stolen, but we did get them back, which was good, but it was a pain in the butt. And so Daz came, refitted, got some more cameras, because we couldn't put those old ones back up, which was a shame, but we did get them back. But Dad's put some cameras up, and he's been a good help. And like I said, I think it's important, and the plan going forward is to get other companies, other people in, just to kind of share what they're doing with their business, because I do believe charity begins at home. Local lad, Barnsley lad, Red.
You Reds.
You Reds. So it's all good. And so check out Daz. If you're a school, you need some screens, you need some CCTV cameras, check him out. We're going to put a link to his Facebook, contact details, and check him out. He's a good guy. There's some really good people in Barnsley. He's a humble guy, good at what he does, on time, gets the job done, and so it's a pleasure to support you like you've supported us. And so top man, and make sure you check him out. Hey guys, welcome back on the other side. I hope you enjoyed the first section of this podcast number 3. But just quickly, I know you've seen a couple of ads, but just quickly, I just want to quickly talk about our soccer school that we've got coming up in the half term, which is our autumn camp, running on the date Monday the 29th to Friday the 2nd of November. This will be our first camp that we've done here for a good few years, and so please go to our website, which is www.lovelifesportsground.co.uk, and just go on our events page and you can book yourself onto our camp, your kids. It's £40 for 5 days, cheap childcare. I'll be coaching. I've got a couple of the Barnsley players. As a surprise, we're going to come up and do a bit of coaching with the kids, and I just think it's good for value. Our motto with the work that we do is more than sports, it's skills for life. So not only will your child get some coaching, but they're going to learn some life skills. It's fun, we've got prizes to give away, and it's going to be really, really, really good. So go on the website and we'll put a link with this podcast that you can click onto and get some information. And then also, I'm really, really excited about the Light Shine in the Darkness fireworks display, which we'll be doing on November the 5th here at the sports ground. There's going to be fireworks, funfair, live music, food. It's going to be a really good family event. So again, go to our website, lovelifesportsground.co.uk, and you can book your tickets online. At the back end of this week, which would be the date commencing, what are we on now, John? What's the date today? Is it the 14th? 4th to the 15th. So the back end of this week, you'll be able to get tickets in Myfield Primary School, Ladywood, Birkwood, Churchfield, the Acorn Centre, the Post Office in Grimethorpe. There'll be the ticket outlet, so if you pop in there, you'll be able to get your tickets. All the proceeds that we raise in the night is going back into the site, so you'll be contributing to the work that we're doing, and in the midst of contributing that, hopefully it's going to be a fantastic, really, really good evening, and we're really looking forward to it. And so, the other side of the ad, it's been really good having you, John.
It's lovely to be here.
Honestly,
it's really good to see you.
It's been really, really good. One of the things I was reflecting, that I was just thinking about the football club. People talk about Rev Preedy, which I love. Rev Preedy, he's a Christian, I'm a Christian. You know, my faith is an important part of my life, and so obviously the history of the Reverend starting the club, which is, you know, it's a really interesting story, that he used sports to get people into church and had a love for the community, and if you look at that, the beginning of the club, and then obviously then you get to yourself, a historic moment, getting Barnsley into the Premier League for the first time in the club history, building the new stand, you know, the indoor academy, AstroTurf, you know, the academy set up, which is part of your legacy. Just, I mean, I'm sure, I mean, obviously your dad being a chairman as well, how does that make you feel to know that, you know, I've played my part of making history, that, you know, as a child I supported that club? What does that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think it needs to be said that I was the chairman, I was the man responsible, but I had other hard-working people around me, my board of directors, who were very supportive and also worked hard, and the staff at the football club, Michael Spinks and his team, without whom a lot of what happened wouldn't have been possible, plus a great manager in Danny and great players. But yeah, I mean, when I go to games now and I look and I think, yeah, we didn't do a bad job really. You know, you refer to my father, he came in 1966 with my predecessor as chairman, a guy called Jeff Buckle. They found a few bob to save the football club from extinction at that time. So my father became chairman in 67 through until his death in 79. I was chairman from 89 through till 2002, 2003. So between us there was 30 years of being chairman of the football club. So that's sort of quite a big chunk of the club's history.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, to be chairman of your hometown football club was amazing, and to have eventually found a way to make a difference was even more amazing. I mean, it happened by accident that I became chairman. Contrary to popular opinion, there was no plotting in smoke-filled rooms. It was a sequence of events. I was 39, so I was the youngest, next to the youngest chairman in the Football League. The youngest was a man called Tony Cleanthis, who's still at Barnet. So I was a baby, and there were a lot of good people helped me in my early days without any question.
I mean, obviously, so you stumbled on it. So you didn't, as a kid, or when your dad was a chairman, didn't you ever dream So some of what I'm doing now, like me and my dad used to talk about, and so my dad used to do various events. And I always used to think, one day I want to do some events like what my dad used to. Did you have those aspirations?
Yeah, yes, of course. Before my father died, he'd said that he and his colleagues on the board were thinking of inviting some younger people, and would I be interested? So that happened a year or two after my father died. So I think I was 33 when I became a director, and at that time I was kind of thinking, well, it'd be nice to be chairman one day, but it's the sort of thing that you imagine only happens to grown-ups, and you don't feel very grown-up when you're 33.
Yeah.
So I'd always assumed that if the opportunity ever came,
Yeah.
it would be much later in my life. So it happened in my late 30s, and I suppose really that at that age, what you lack in experience and know-how, you make up for in energy and enthusiasm and wanting to change the world. And I was lucky enough to be part of a major series of events in the history of the football club. So yeah, proud, not conceited, not arrogant, and mindful that a lot of other people helped along the way.
Yeah, no, that's good. Just a question, as obviously as the chairman. So I mean, I've never hid this from it's public knowledge. So when I signed for Crystal Palace for the record fee, it was Ron Notes, the chairman, who signed me. And so I had a few issues, like there was a few obstacles with the manager Alan Smith. That we had a few challenges, but it was public knowledge that really Ron Notes signed me. And so as a chairman. It's a question, don't have to answer it if you don't want to. You know, have you signed someone? Have you ever kind of put your iron rod down a little bit? No, we want them. Or was you the type? I mean, my experience of you is you gave your managers leeway to make decisions. Or how did that work from your perspective?
Yeah.
So Ron Nose was quite.
I knew Ron very well indeed.
Ron was a strong chairman.
I could imagine Ron being a difficult man to work with. I mean, I used to get on very well with him. But he had good ideas and he was progressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he did run Crystal Palace in his own way.
Yeah.
No, in my time at Barnsley.
So did you and Danny ever clash? Just a question, like. Because Danny's quite cool. Go ahead, to be fair.
No, not really.
Yeah. Just a question. Yeah.
My role as chairman was to be the link between the directors and the playing side of the football club.
Yeah.
Within that role, I believed that it was my job to make sure I got a strong relationship with the manager.
Yeah.
In certain cases that was quite easy, in other cases it wasn't necessarily that easy.
Yeah.
Mel Machin was my first managerial appointment, and for a young chairman who knew nothing, Mel was brilliant. Did we have clashes with managers over the years? Yeah, sort of, but nothing to the point where the relationship was damaged.
Yeah.
You're dealing with managers, most managers are strong characters anyway.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be managers if there weren't.
Yeah.
So they're going to have strong opinions, and you may well disagree with those opinions. But ultimately, in the sanctioning of signing of players, at the end of the day, a bit old school perhaps, but I used to believe, and still do to a certain extent, that if you are giving the manager the responsibility of running your first team, of running your football side, then it's not really logical for chairman or directors to tell him who he's got to sign, because ultimately the likelihood is that the manager will live or die by the performances of those players.
Yeah.
So it's not really justifiable if you have presented the manager with a whole load of players that you're telling him to sign, and then it doesn't work out, and then he gets sacked. So
did you have discussions in terms of like, obviously I presume you'd have meetings, but would you say, well, I don't like that. Like, are you sure? How would you?
Absolutely.
How was negotiations? Like, how was discussions with the manager and the chairman?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to mention names.
Yeah.
But in the case of Mel, there were two players that he wanted to sign, and on both occasions, I very strongly said to him that I thought he'd be disappointed.
Yeah.
and I was proved right on both occasions.
Right.
But ultimately, he was very strong in his view that we should do it.
Yeah.
And as both of those signings fell
Yeah.
within the financial parameters that existed at the time,
Yeah.
ultimately the bottom line was it wasn't for me to tell Mel who to sign.
Yeah.
That's what we felt.
Yeah.
I know that things have changed now, and in the modern world there is a lot more statistical evidence as to players' physicality and health and all that sort of things. But ultimately that should be, in my view, that is an aid to helping to make a decision.
Yeah.
That evidence, that statistical stuff, isn't necessarily the be-all and end-all in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did have various different disagreements with managers over the years, but never ever to the point where it affected the relationship. And when you're working with people, whether you're the boss, well, particularly when you're the boss, you obviously don't want them to undermine you in any public way. So I used to say to them, look, so you want me in here in your office, no problem. But once we've thrashed it out, then we agree a way forward, and that has to be it. And by and large, that tended to happen. Danny stitched me up once, but he'd deny it now. In fact, he denied it then. He said he'd been misquoted. Well, it was something nothing at the time. But it was a Scottish fullback he wanted to sign, called Philip Scott, I think it was.
Yeah.
And there was never any chance of it happening. So I just had a quiet word with him. And he said, no, I got misquoted, Chairman. Yeah, all right then. but just to reassure people, Danny and I have remained good friends, and it's Wednesday tomorrow, isn't it? I'm playing golf with him tomorrow, so
wow.
Yeah,
he's a nice guy, Danny.
Terrific guy, terrific.
Yeah, back into my career, I remember meeting him on the M1 at Milton Keynes Junction. I was going to sign for MK Dons. I had a meeting, and I never ended up signing because it wasn't right, but meeting him, he was a really nice guy. And if it football wise, it would have been right for me, I'd have signed because he was genuine, seemed a good guy. Talk to me about the pain and disappointment of losing at Wembley 2001. I was devastated myself, John. I really was so personally, I so thought we were going to get promoted because that was my dream, to get to the Premier League with Barnsley.
Talk to you about Wembley. Higgy was asked the same question on Friday night at the Hall of Fame dinner.
Yes, yeah, gosh, yeah.
Do you have fond memories of Wembley? And his response was, of course not, we lost.
Yeah.
And so the same applies really, because it's not a game, it's not a day out, not when you're involved.
Yeah.
There was an awful lot hinging on it. So my day was, the directors had all travelled down.
Yeah.
We'd chartered our own bus, but we were part of the convoy with our families, part of the convoy going to Wembley. There was a reception and a lunch in the old banqueting hall there. I couldn't eat anything. And you're like trying to be nice to people. It's like, do you mind? Leave me alone. I want to be on my own. And I was very fortunate. I'd been blessed with a ticket which gave me access to all areas of Wembley. So I went off for a walk and I came down to see you boys in the dressing room. And then I went and stood in the royal box on my own for a bit and looked out and watched as the 30,000 or so Barnsley fans started to fill up that end. And then I went back downstairs, chatted to a few people, and then went to watch the game. And like you, Bruce, we got smashed at Ipswich 7, the previous bank
I
holiday.
hate going there as a player.
I know.
It's a nightmare for me.
I know. And Harry annoyed me because he told us all to be on the bus, chairman as well, by 5:30.
Yeah.
And he rolls up at bloody 6 o'clock and didn't find himself. So that was irritating. Then we lost 1-0 at home, and I thought that day we were going to win.
Me too.
I just didn't think we wouldn't.
Me too.
And I mean, the first half was a good game, and we're 2-1, and then the penalty, and that kind of changed it really.
Yeah.
I think Richard Wright had also made a great save from a Georgie header, hadn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Christoph header.
We was talking about it.
That was a great.
Georgie, have you ever watched this? Hickey gave you a bit of stick the other night. Hickey said you should put it down lower. Was it a good height for the keeper?
Yeah.
We was talking.
Yeah, well.
But it happens. It happens to the best of us.
So that was 2-1. Then it went 3-1, and then we pulled one back. And you're still thinking, yeah, it's going to be our day. Extra time, we don't mind. And we lost. And that was the second year of parachute payments, which is all you got in those days. And I knew that we would have a lot of hard work to do to sort things out. It made it doubly more difficult on the day because my biggest mate in football at the time was the chairman of Ipswich, a guy called David Sheepshanks. Quite how David and Old Etonian and myself, a bloody Barrow boy from Barnsley, how we ever got on so well, I've no idea, but we did. So obviously I'm stood on the front row of the Royal Box, and then our boys came up, you guys came up, gave one or two of you a hug or two, and then they came up, and I had to shake their hands and congratulate them. And I remember Tony Miller was their skipper, I believe, and then the goalkeeper came up, I think it was, and after about the third or fourth one, I thought, I can't do this, I can't do it, I want to cry. So I had to turn me back. I mean, it wasn't because I was being rude, it was because I was very emotional. And then afterwards, again, you're milling about sort of a tea party in the banqueting hall at Wembley, and all you want to do is go home and be left alone. We eventually got on the buses, and it was brilliant. There were some Ipswich fans outside Wembley waiting for us, and they recognised me and they came up and just said, "We were waiting for you. You're such a brilliant club. It's such a great game. So we won't spend all the Premiership money. We'll save a bit for you when you come back next season." Which was nice. But on the way back, I said to my wife, who sat next to me, my daughter's the seats behind on the coach, and I said, "Do you know what, love?" I said, "I think it's probably time to let somebody else have a go." And she said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "No, I've been doing it since 1989. Maybe it needs a different perspective." And in hindsight, it may well have done. And she said, "Who am I sat next to? This isn't my husband." She said, "I've never heard you give up in your life." I said, "I'm not giving up. I'm just trying to." She said, "That was just stupid. You feel different in the morning. So just sit quietly." And we did. We never spoke all the way back. And the next morning, I thought, "No, I can't walk away. It would have been criminal to have walked away at that point." So that was what Wembley was. So
have you still never watched the game, by the way?
No, I've never. I've got it on. In fact, we got it on DVD as well as the old tape. And no, I haven't watched it.
Wow.
I'm not sure I could even now.
Oh, I don't know that.
And again, I was chair of a football club, and supporters sometimes imagine that all directors are the same. One of the things that surprised me when I got into football was that you'd meet people at a football club and they've been a director somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like, I could never understand that. How can you do that?
Yeah.
And what I was going to say was that a lot of fans think that the directors couldn't give a toss and they just sit in the boardroom drinking whiskey and eating the food, and after the game they haven't got a care in the world. But I was more involved emotionally than any fan. And
no, I remember that. I can, again, like I said, I can remember you in negotiations, you popping in to wish us all the best. And just and like I said, the proof of it, 20 years on, we're still here, which again is a testimony to you as a person, and your commitment to the club, which has been it's been phenomenal. So I mean, so you've got Rev Preedy, you've got John Dennis, and it was nice also to be at the Hall of Fame and to hear about Patrick. I mean, for me personally, the truth of it is that, I mean, I take my hands off to the Quine family for their investment into the club. They've made history in terms of that group. As far as I know, Patrick with James were key to Connor coming to the club, Sam Winnell coming to the club, the coming back of Hamill, which was historic, and that I mean that crop of players, to get them in the team and to pull a team together, as well as the coaching staff, the manager. I mean, that was some doing. I mean, that was a really special time, and I mean, like I said, from Rev Preedy, I mean, I wonder what Rev would be thinking now if he saw all these years on what you've done. Then obviously there's been the highs and lows in between his time, what you've done, the highs and lows. You know, Pat showed highs and lows, but then it's like, and I'm not just saying it, and I say this because I mean it, that Barnsley is a special club, and it's had some real special people be part of it that are passionate, and that it's not just business. It's like it's a heart thing.
I think, Bruce, I've said to people in recent years that there is something about this town and this place.
I agree.
And this football club.
I agree.
But I don't know what it is, and I don't know whether in small to medium-sized post-industrial towns all over the country it's the same.
Yeah.
But I've said to people that at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, there's tens of thousands of people who've not been at Oakwell in the borough who want to know how Reds have gone.
Yeah.
And there's tens of thousands more spread across the rest of the United Kingdom and across the world who may have come from Barnsley, may have relatives in Barnsley, may have supported Bruce Dyer, may have done business with me, whatever. Yeah. There's huge numbers of people that want to know how Barnsley's done.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that sort of connection happens at every football club in every town in the country.
Yeah, no, it is a special place. I could say the same thing. I get it all the time from friends, family in London. They're like, what is it with you and Barnsley? And I'm like, I mean, you know about me and my faith. I'm like, it's a God thing. I just believe I've been sent there. But they're special people. There's something unique.
By the way, Bruce, you're not the only one that used to pray, you know, every Saturday afternoon. I used to pray. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, me too, I tell you. But honestly, it's just, I can't explain it. There's just, like I said, from Reverend Preedy, yourself, there have been some key people, and Patrick, what he's invested his time as a family. There's been some it just seems like there's always going to be good people at this place. I believe that. I really believe that. Obviously they've got the new owners. Not sure what their vision is. I don't know them.
No, it's very interesting to. I still have that same question, but I'm not quite sure. I know Paul Conway on Friday night said that we need to stabilised the club in the Championship.
Yeah, yeah,
And he spoke quite sensibly.
yeah,
I think that over recent times there appears to be an understanding that the club needs to reach out to the community,
yeah,
and that seems to be slowly happening.
yeah,
So those are all good things,
yeah.
and my hope is that they want to do it and they're not just doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, yeah,
And I suppose my other great hope would be that the one piece of the jigsaw that my generation was unable to fulfil,
yeah.
which was the redevelopment of the West Stand,
Right, yeah.
I'd love to see that happen before I die.
Really?
I ain't got, I'm not thinking of popping off anytime soon. So you've got a year or two, but that would be amazing if that could happen.
Yeah. Well, John, I'm a praying man, and my faith means everything to me. And you've been a blessing to me,
Thank you,
and you
Bruce.
really have. And so I pray that happens before you leave this earth, that you get to see that West Stand done. And so to Reverend Preedy, John Dennis, and the late Patrick Crine, it's been a wonderful journey, and hopefully with the new owners, long live Barnsley FC. And so thank you for this podcast number 3. Thank you for listening. Keep tuned. We've got more special guests in the pipeline. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks so much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.
Quality. Cheers.